G'day Vivesco followers to this blog entry in mid-July 2015. Today I want to talk to you about feet and how vital they are to our all-over body health and how important it is therefore to give our feet freedom to move and to let them do what they're supposed to do, which is to carry us wherever the hell we want them to. So let's have a look at feet in general. They're pretty amazing structural wise. 1/4 of all bones of our entire body are actually in our feet. They contain 33 joints, over 150 ligaments and about 20 muscles. So that's pretty cool stuff right there. And if you think about it, the feet are our base. Nearly all fascial lines somehow are directly connected to our feet. We stand and walk on them, a lot of times, not so much nowadays with all the sitting that we're doing like I'm doing right now, but they're designed to cope with quite a bit of stress in terms of walking, sitting, standing and absorbing those forces through the ground. So this is exactly the reason why there's so many joints, ligaments and muscles in those feet, to be able to move in multiple directions and to adjust to all sorts of terrain and to disperse the force, as I said, that comes through the ground with every step that we take through our feet into the entire body. Sharing is caring, so it's as easy as that. Hence, let me put this to you. Could it be that a lot of issues we see in our knees and hips and even in the shoulders or upper body in general could actually originate in our feet due to poor alignment and poor ability to move? I'm talking about the movement within the foot joints. So check this out. Here's a picture of a knee joint. So as you can see, the knee joint is stacked horizontal, like most other major joints in the body. So that means you've got a bone coming from underneath, a bone sitting on top of it, with room in each other, and that room in between is the joint, aligned horizontal to the ground. And what happens over time? Cartilage in between wears away, and we see bone-on-bone scenarios happening. So imagine if the foot was actually arranged the same way. How quickly would we have issues with our feet if that was the case? Luckily, check out the next picture. As you can see in this picture, the joints in the foot are orientated vertical to each other. So the bones are aligned horizontal to the ground, and therefore the joints in between the bones are orientated vertical, which leads to better dispersion through gravity instead of in line with gravity. Once we get to the ankle, the bones start to stack horizontal. So this is the ground and I'm coming this way. The force that goes into the feet now gets dispersed sideways rather than upways. And therefore a lot of force is absorbed through our feet and through our ankle. Therefore, if that doesn't quite work as it should do, the force then travels up and ends up in the knees, in the hips, where the joints get compressed. We're getting compressive forces going this way rather than this way. So check out the other picture here. These two pictures show how different the joints have to move because their position got changed. The foot in the high heel is very restricted. This is why it looks so staccato when women walk in high heels most of the time. Now you may say this is an extreme comparison, and yes, it is. So even just a small heel can change obviously the angle of the position of the joints and therefore can have a really big effect on how they move and how they function. And yes, our bodies are pretty amazing at adapting to all sorts of situations and stresses and changes, but very often it will get you back at some stage in life. And even more often somewhere else in the body, as I said, if the feet aren't working quite as well, forces then get more directed into the body than what they usually would. So we're ending up with a lot of different issues in the knees, hips, upper body, shoulders. But it's very hard then to actually narrow down and find out where it originated from, because people normally don't think of, if they've got a shoulder neck problem or back problem, that it could actually come from their feet. Another issue is not just the angle of the foot through different soles and cushioning and all that kind of stuff, but actually a non-spacious toe box. I'm talking about the top of the shoe. Most shoes, they are very narrow and often bind. So imagine these are my toes. I've only got 4 now. So often the toe boxes are so narrow that they're actually compressing the toes into each other. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you go, oh yeah, I do actually end up with quite a lot of sore spots somewhere, and I can see how my toes kind of leave impressions in each other because they're so tight in the shoes at all times. So this is one reason people end up with hallux valgus or bunions. The big toe has a massive responsibility. Most of our body weight gets loaded through the big toe when we walk. So we're kind of rolling from the ankle to the like over the outside, over the small toe, and then we go through all 5 toes, ending up in the big toe before we push up again. So our whole body weight at some stage through one step is sitting in our big toe. So if you wear shoes that bind the big toes towards the other toes, from where it would normally naturally move to. So if you walk, the big toe would usually kind of widen and then kind of move, into like spread out. Where if it's tied up together, that can't happen. So what happens is that the body kind of looks for the next big thing to deal with that force and with that stress, and therefore it takes the next best thing, the first metatarsal that got a bit more room to move. And as you can see on this picture, the narrow toe box is often the cause why we end up with bunions. So to summarize this, we want our feet to have room to move and to be mobile, to deal with the ground reaction forces they are facing with every single step we take. However, in saying that, we do need some stability in our feet as well. Otherwise, we will not be able to push off the ground as effectively as we do. As you can see in this picture, the answer to how this is found in the mid-tarsal and subtalar joints of the feet. These joint complexes will lock for rigidity and unlock for flexibility, depending on what the front and the mid of the foot is doing. So we're looking at an inversion where the arches come up, or an eversion where the arches come down, which is your flat foot. We're also looking at dorsiflexion where the toes come up, and plantar flexion when the toes flex down, and also our rotations. So for example, when we invert the subtalar joint, when we invert, so when the arches come up, the subtalar joint is locked, and when we push down, the subtalar joint is unlocked. So when we talk about flexibility and rigidity, we're also talking about instability and stability. So stability without mobility is rigidity, and instability without mobility is flexibility. So over flexible. Hence the key to a healthy and functional foot, body all over, is mobility. Mobility is the narrow line between flexibility or instability and stability. To give you a bit of an idea, I want to show you the difference between a formed shoe and a barefoot shoe. To walk barefoot everywhere is pretty difficult nowadays. So there's a few companies that come out with some resolutions, barefoot shoes that mimic the feeling of walking barefoot, but being protected from sharp and prickly stuff on the ground. So I used to wear, back in the day, a lot of Birkenstock, because I always thought I used to have flat feet, so my arches were flat, and I thought, I do need that support to pop my arches back up and help me to let my feet walk properly, so to speak. However, if you look at these, so they actually got quite a nice big toe box, so lots of room to move, and they're quite open here anyway. But then again, they actually are a bit containing through the rim here on the side. But if you look at movement, so if I walked in those, this and I'm pressing quite hard, this is as much flexibility as I can get out of these shoes without breaking them. If I could break them, I'm not sure if I'd be strong enough. But this is as far as it goes in that way. If we're looking at the movement of the arch, so the eversion and inversion, trying to twist that shoe, again, like I'm not really getting much out of this. And yeah, so let's compare this to one of my Vivo Barefoot shoes. So again, you've got a really nice white toe box. If you were looking at, say, one of those ballerina shoes, you know, the flat shoes for women they get, you could probably easily take 1/4 off and you'd be looking at about that much width through the front of the foot of the shoe. Again, going into the walking phase, and you can already see, like, I'm not even pushing. This is so soft. So I can actually roll this shoe pretty much up into a little handy bowl. So this is as flexible as it. I think the sole is about, is it 3 mil thick? I can't remember. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. And also even rotation through the foot. Again, like, this is just so flexible and really lets your feet do what they need to do to move. And they're awesome packing because they don't take much up as much room as your other shoes do. So this is really just to show you the difference between what formed rigid shoes actually do to your feet. They imprison them. They don't let them move. They don't allow them to move, and therefore, as I said, again, the ground reaction force gets not properly dispersed through the foot first, but goes straight into the rest of the body and can cause a lot of havoc up there. So another thing we should talk about is probably cushioning. Like it's a big thing in the sports industry, in particular running shoes. They get thicker and thicker and thicker soles because they reckon it will help with knee injuries and running injuries. However, over the last, I don't know how many years now that those soles have becoming thicker and thicker, there hasn't been really any change in the statistics for running injuries occurring. And truth is, actually, our body needs impact forces. Our feet kind of thrive on that. 80% of the plantar receptors, so plantar is the sole of your feet, are sensitive to vibration. Vibration is how we detect a surface area, which then creates the reaction of the stability, locomotion, mobility we need to adjust to the surface. So it's important to keep our plantar receptors young, as when we age, the sensitivity threshold increases and density decreases. So the more we actually put them into cotton wool, like wrap them up and keep them soft and nice and squishy, and we're taking mobility again away from them, and also we're taking the force away. So all of a sudden the body is actually not used to a lot of impact, and then people send them running, which is a lot of impact on again on the same places of impact through the body, and they're wondering why they're ending up with issues in the ankles and in the calves and the knees. But yeah, so the more we block our receptors, we take away sensory intake, and which leads to a poor motor response. It's as simple as that. So in saying all this, please don't go out there, throw all your shoes away and start walking bare feet. You have to transition slowly. Otherwise you'll end up causing a lot of damage to your feet, to your lower limbs. It's when the whole barefoot craze came up, that's when a lot of people did that. They went away and went straight away into barefoot running, but you've got to be aware that you're changing from walking heel first and having the forces entering your body in particular areas, you're changing that from one day to the next to a complete different approach, and your body's not used to it. So yes, you're going to end up with injuries. Hence the whole barefoot thing got a bit of a bad rep when it first started. But if you do go smart about it and you take your time transitioning, then you will probably find over time, like I did, that it's going to be the best thing you've ever done. When I went to Europe last year, I still had a couple of normal shoes and I had my barefoot shoes with me, and I was walking a lot. I was walking every day. Being Europe, there was a lot of cobblestone, a lot of uneven ground. And funny thing is, when I walked in my barefoot shoes, I felt fine at the end of the day. My feet didn't hurt, my calves didn't hurt. If I wore my other shoes, I had heavy feet, heavy legs, and felt tired. So it's really like my feet almost welcomed the unevenness of the ground. They took it in to figure out and to play with it and how to deal with it most effectively. So it was actually pretty cool. So should you consider maybe to giving it a try with barefoot shoes? Vivo Barefoot is the company I would recommend. I love their products. And the best thing about them is they actually don't do just sports shoes, they do everyday shoes. So you can wear them to the office. They do kids shoes to go to school in. So it's you can really change you can be walking bare feet on a 24/7 base. And the Vivo they tick all the boxes. You have room for your toes, flexibility through the sole, and no drop from heel to toe. So there's no lift and change in the joint positioning. And that's it about feet. So if you have any questions, need any info, I'm here to help with your foot strengthening exercises as well as corrective exercises. I'm here to answer any questions. I'm open to discussions. For me, it's been around 18 months now that I've changed into barefoot shoes, and I'm definitely not looking back. My feet feel amazing. I used to wake up with sore feet, and I don't do that anymore. And also my knee, which I used to have issues with when running, has been mostly good. Every now and then it kind of flares up a little bit, but it takes time to change a habit and change the neural pathways and get your body used to stuff. I'm now 30 years old, so it took a while to get where it was, and it will take a while to get back to where I want it to be. But I do believe that setting your feet free will set you free eventually. So yeah, if you've got any questions, let me know. And otherwise, I'd love to hear if you decide to go bare feet, give it a try, and how you're dealing with it. Alright, so I'll talk to you in about 2 weeks. Have a good time, enjoy, and take care. Bye.